Hello, everyone. Welcome to Weekly Manga Recap here on May the 27th of 2026. My love for you is like a truck berserker.
Oh, yeah. Very clever use of Berserk. I like that.
And I am Nick, and this is Quinn.
Yeah. Your Drampaw just went to 50% power, activating its Berserk ability, giving it, I don't know, like increased attack or something stupid. I don't know. It's not a good Pokemon, but it does have the ability Berserk.
Gotcha. Okay. There's too many abilities in Pokemon now, mostly because there's too many Pokemon. So I have no idea what 70% of them do.
I used to not, and then I started playing Pokemon Champions a little bit, and I had to learn what abilities did because sometimes you'd attack something and it just wouldn't work, and you
just doesn't work.
You just sit there, you're like,
oh, this one has a fuck you ability.
You're like, Nick, did you know Toxicroak can be immune to water damage if you wanted to?
That one I did know. It's like a dry skin or something like that. Yeah. So I did know that one, but that's Gen 4, so of course I knew that one. But...
That's true. Yeah, I'll send you like Hedron engine or whatever the fuck Miraidon does. I think that actually just sets up like electric terrain when it comes in, but electric terrain in and of itself is like a 5-minute long explanation.
Yeah, it sounds weird. I remember when Pokemon was about like the little kid could understand it. All right.
Hey, kids today have to figure out a lot of things, Nick. So
I suppose that's true. It's a very different world.
Pokemon abilities probably aren't that far beyond them.
We do have a manga that honestly has probably been a very long time coming on this podcast to talk about today. We're not going to talk about the whole thing. I want to clarify that. So if you expect us to talk for about 400 chapters worth of content, no. We are talking about 8 chapters of content. They're big chapters.
Monthly chapters. Monthly chapters.
So it's about 3 volumes worth of content that we're talking about today. And we're going to just kind of like take our time going through this.
Yes.
And properly like actually get into stuff, because a lot of recommendations, we kind of get like just a little bite of it. And this is something where we kind of want to eat the whole thing.
Yes.
And well, that can if that sounds a little unpleasant, that's okay, because the series can be a little unpleasant at times. Berserk by Kentaro Miura, a legendary series that has been running or basically almost as long as we've been alive. First
Pretty
debuted
close.
in 1989, and as of a couple years ago, now outliving its original creator, because Kentaro Miura unfortunately passed away, and the series was unfinished, and his staff and friend decided to carry on with it.
Yes.
And this is a series that a lot of people kind of like point to, especially in terms of like the timeline of when stuff came out, as this is a series that was very influential to a lot of people who are kind of like trying to get into more mature anime and stuff around the time that it came out, because there's been like 3 or 4 anime adaptations from this series, most of which all adapt the same arc, which is the most famous part of it, which is the part after where we stopped reading, immediately after.
Yes.
We only really read the introductory arc of this, which is the Black Swordsman arc.
Yes, which for all intents and purposes seems to be sort of a prologue, sort of a jump in section, because from what I understand, the next arc will actually deal with like, who is Guts? What is this brand he has? Why does he hate Griffith? Like all these questions that are not answered in the start at all.
Yeah, there's very little in the way of, I don't think there's actually any narration at all, really, in this, at least in the chapters that we read. It's a very show don't tell series, and the way that it shows is very compelling, because the artwork is very detailed, very engrossing, very gross in a lot of cases. Um, and there's just a lot of weird stuff that happens in the midst of what is really just a pretty straightforward, simple story about this guy in a dark fantasy setting who really wants to have revenge against people you don't know that much about. And man, does he kill a lot of demons in order to try and get to that point.
Yes.
I got a very like Conan the Barbarian sort of feel at different points when reading this.
Yeah.
Especially at the very beginning, because the very first thing that happens in the story is that Guts is having sex with a woman who turns into a demon to kill him. So he kills it by shoving his arm cannon in its mouth and blowing its face off.
That is how we are introduced to this story, and it's very amusing because, from what I understand, the story of Berserk goes to some at points very tender places. Like it is, sort of deeply introspective story about sort of humanity and redemption and like self-judgment and trauma, and yes, does open with him having sex with a woman who turns into a demon and he blows her up with a cannon in his arm. And I'm like, oh, that the first part is more what I assumed Berserk was as a whole. So it's interesting to see what it's going to diverge apart.
From what I have heard, I understand that a lot of people say that sequence is actually kind of very out of character for Guts, given what he has been through. And I don't know. Well, I guess we'll find out exactly how out of character it is. But I think that kind of is a big like, hey, do you want to see a guy kill demons and stuff? That it's definitely a big like, here, come on in here and enjoy my story that's about a guy who is confronting the trauma that he experienced that causes him to reject any human companionship at all whatsoever. Because even in this early part of the story, it becomes very clear very quickly that there is a lot going on with Guts under the surface. Even with like it not, like going to the trouble of like, and he was sad. It doesn't ever do that at any point. But there is this kind of constant refrain that Guts has where he'll come across a group of people, he comes across like 4 different groups of people, I guess you could say.
Yeah, it's something like that.
Somewhere around there. And he, at every point, and it is like, I'm not interested in being your friend. I'm not interested in protecting you. I'm not interested in saving you. You are around demons. I'm going to kill the demons and continue my journey. Fuck you. And you're all weaklings that are probably going to die. And if you die, you deserve to die. Fuck you. And then it keeps on happening. And then once everyone's dead, he has a little moment to himself where he's like, yeah, they all deserve to die. Fuck him. I'm not sad.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of like all you get is these little hints of like, oh, you're lying to yourself. You don't actually hate everyone.
Yeah.
You don't actually, you're using this as like just the only thing that you have to kind of just keep yourself going in this miserable existence.
Yeah, he is not necessarily bought into all the things that he is saying. And I think that's honestly the part that's the most interesting to me as we go through this. There is some cool action. He also cuts a man in half with a sword in the first chapter.
Yeah.
So like, like there's cool big sword and arm cannon stuff going on. But, Guts himself constantly just being like, if they die, it's because they're weak. What are you going to do? And then afterwards seem like really forlorn and sad about it and not being able to really vocalize it or express it in any way is the part that has me being like, oh, I see now why everybody talks so highly about this, because there's very clearly something to this character that is not just, this is a seinen series so we can show breasts and blood everywhere. We are also delving into a more complex character than what you may normally get in your, shonen stuff that you're graduating from.
It's a bizarrely vulnerable expression, I think, especially for like the time period I associate with manga in terms of, this is very late 80s. And like I said, like I mentioned, like I like how I got like, Conan the Barbarian vibes off of this. Like, yeah, but Conan the Barbarian doesn't ever have a point where he's like, well, actually, I'm very sad and lonely, and
He's like,
I just wish that someone could be my friend or something. He doesn't
I,
have any.
I do not
That's
want the
going on.
lamentations of their women. I want their respect.
Conan the Barbarian is the movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger is, he is his family is killed at the beginning of the story, and at the end of that movie, hey, he kills James Earl Jones and he gets his revenge, and then it's like, all right, and he has gotten all of the stuff that he wanted, and then he just goes off to have more adventures. Isn't that great? Whereas this one, it's like, and then everyone else but Guts was dead. And Guts was sad.
Yeah.
He was still sad after all of that.
It
He
didn't
killed all
make
the
things
demon
better.
bad guys. The day was saved, and he still felt sad.
And that's that's the exciting part about it is, we don't normally get to see a character like that all the time. I think a lot of people were inspired by Berserk, and
definitely.
I'm not sure everyone was inspired to tell the same kind of story as Berserk. Some people want to tell the story about the guy who had sex with the demon and then blew her up with a gun arm, and it's nice and refreshing to see such a vulnerability kind of be very tightly buried underneath a character. As I said, I don't know what happens in Berserk. I have inklings, maybe like small snippets that I've heard from other people, but I don't really know what Guts's deal is, and I'm very curious.
So to be clear, because I do know what happened to him, mostly through like osmosis and reputation stuff. So you don't know why Guts hates Griffith, then?
No, I don't know anything about I don't know anything about the mark.
Okay.
The only thing I know is that there's a horse at some point.
There is, yeah. That was what was actually really, exciting to me, was like knowing, at least in general, stuff that happens and seeing like hints of it be sprinkled throughout this first part of the story, and then being surprised when like, oh, Griffith actually shows up at the very end of it, and he is, untouchably powerful, and Guts is talking to him, saying stuff like, you did something to me and I am here to kill you, even though like he can't win. Like there's this whole thing where, Guts is portrayed as this like unstoppable monstrous person who can get wounded, yes, but he's got this repeating crossbow that can pierce like anything's hide. He's got this massive sword, which is constantly called this. It's more like a chunk of iron than an actual blade. And he's got the strength to wield it, which means that at one point he slashes through this fully heavily armored guy and the stone pillar behind him, which is insanely badass. He's got an artificial arm that has a powder cannon inside of it.
Yeah.
And somehow it doesn't shatter his body every time he fires it. He's got all this stuff, and he has this unquenchable will to just keep on going, even when he does come against something that is more powerful than him. And he just keeps on killing these demons that he should not be able to kill. And then the actual villains of the story, like the Council of Five or something like that. I can't remember
five God hands, I think.
The God Hand.
Yeah. I will note, I did have to read the first handful of chapters on this from Scanlation, simply just because I'm waiting to get access to my boyfriend's like full collected volumes of Berserk, and I was like, I guess nobody's really speaking of the first arc in such a way that I'm like, I gotta check it, like the official source out for that. So I'm not sure. This is also ones that called him like Gutsu, I think, for like the first
wow.
6 chapters or so. No, Gats. That's what they called him. Gats.
Gatsu.
Yeah.
The God Hand show up,
mm-hmm.
and they basically like have reality warping psychic powers to the point where Guts can't even fight them.
They find him. They find them in like an MC Escher infinite world, basically.
And Guts tries to storm up the stairs to go after Griffith, and he's just like, no, and just warps him away. And like Guts is already, his body's so broken he can't even fight. let alone have a chance to win. And it completely throws into, focus like, oh, all this stuff that he's putting himself through, it seems like it's pointless. Like he is clinging on to life with pure hatred and anger, to the point where we get the title of the series at the end of the first chapter when, he's just killed all these people mercilessly. And Puck, who is this little sprite fairy guy who for some reason is drawn to Guts and wants to be around him, even though Guts is a total dickhead to him. And he's just like, Berserk. Like he is Berserk. And after you've seen everything that he does, like, yeah, he is. Like all that is driving him is anger and hatred. And it is in this desperate attempt to cover up the loss, which presumably if he tries in any way to embrace it, he's going to stop. And then he may not, start going on this quest for vengeance again. In fact, he might just sit there and die.
Yeah.
And his very existence is marked because he has this brand in his neck, which means that he is supposed to have been a sacrifice in this ritual that you don't really know anything about yet. And demons are drawn to him constantly. Whenever they show up, it starts bleeding. And he knows things. The really interesting part of the story, I felt like, was when he comes across this man who is trying to get revenge on the king of this keep, who is in secret a demon, and the man's body has been maimed, his family's been killed, and he just happens to have this weird artifact that's got these eyes and mouths in it, and he doesn't know what it does.
Yeah, it's like a
Guts knows what it's...
It's like a Mr. Potato Head where somebody like shoved all the pieces in a weird space, but evil.
Yes. And Guts knows what it is and knows what it's for. And it's like, why do you know that? You're a weird sword guy. You're not like some sort of like mystical demon scholar. Why do you know that? Oh, why do you know that? It's like, what have you been through that you know that's what that's for? But yeah, I was very excited reading through this because it's got great art, really intense action. But the thing that really does tie it all together, like we've been emphasizing constantly, is like Guts is, clearly more of a character than he tries to put on the entire time. He's not this untouchable badass. He's a very deeply troubled man who really, really needs something good to happen to him, and nothing has so far.
Yeah. So without, I guess, like super extending this to a, ridiculous degree for discussing 8 chapters of a series, we are, I should speak for both of us, but I think we're both pretty excited to see what comes next. I think the Golden Dawn arc is sort of the one that people kind of speak of when they talk about like the golden age of Berserk or whatever. So I'm super excited to get into that. I still enjoy the Black Swordsman stuff. Everybody seems to be speaking of it like, yeah, well, you have to kind of get through that, but I enjoyed it. I think I'm definitely very appreciative, and this might be a thought I'll echo throughout, our go through the whole thing, but I'm actually very thankful that I'm reading Berserk now than I think when I was 20, because I think I might have taken the wrong lessons from Berserk at a younger age. Whereas now I'm able to be like, oh wow, Guts is like a very wounded person who doesn't know how to communicate his true thoughts and has to kind of very clearly like push up a defense against everything. And I hope he's able to find some peace and satisfaction in his life.
Yeah, and hopefully the rest of the series has more women in it that don't just die in the same chapter they're introduced. That was a pattern I was noticing in the first few, to the point when the princess in the last story got introduced. I was like, oh no.
Teresia, no!
Okay. But yeah, we will talk more about Berserk in the future. We're going to, kind of like be just like occasionally picking it back up to go over more of it, but there are going to be more recommendations of other series that we'll cover probably in between as we go through it.
Yes.
In the meantime, let's talk our regular manga.
Yes.
We got Ichi the Witch,
which
83rd Hunt.
Ironically also opens with Ichi having sex with a woman who then turns into a demon, and he takes his gun arm and blows her up.
That is a little bit of a remix of what actually happened, so...
I guess if you change a lot of those verbs around, you're kind of correct.
The possessive parts, yeah. 83rd Hunt, A Moth and Flame. So, yes, Amadora has just been reminded of who her true target is because she got really distracted by, her backstory and, oh gosh, what's with Matsukaza's?
Minakami?
Minakata.
Minakata.
That's it. Got distracted by his backstory and stuff. So now she sets her sights on Ichi as well, and she fires a whole bunch of rounds from her minigun. And we get an explanation that, the magic ability of Muscat, it does more than just manifest firearms. It can also load any other spell as ammo with power proportional to the wielder's magic energy. So even though it's not her spell, Amadora loads Lazud and prepares to fire that. And she starts to fire her gun, but then a chakram hits it. And oh my gosh, is Xena Warrior Princess in this? No, it's Zairo. Zairo, that other magic keeper, the other really tall magic keeper, I should say. He knocks it into the barrel, and it blows a huge hole in the wall instead. So Zairo has a little speech that he says about so magic keeper sacred treasures absorb magical energy. So what we do is we, hit the witch so that their magic gets absorbed. And it turns out not only does he have Xena Warrior Princess stuff, he's also got Yondu from Guardians of the Galaxy stuff because he blows a whistle in order to make his chakram come back to him. He says that, all right, so Amadora is focused on Ichi, so why don't you stay right there, Ichi, so that we can use you? And Ichi's like, okay. And instead he gets on Gokuraku's shoulders, piggyback style.
I was so happy for this because there was a moment when this exchange of action was starting to happen where I was like, I mean, this is cool, but is Ichi just going to sit there and not be relevant in it? And then I turned the page and I'm like, okay, no, he's going to do a cavalry battle charge on Gokuraku's shoulders. This is a good series, actually.
And so he's getting a piggyback ride from Gokuraku, who carries him forward. And as he's passing by Minakata, he says, hey, bear hunting, you take the other role. And Minakata's like, all right, Zairo, let's go. And Zairo's like, wait, what are you talking about?
I didn't grow up with you guys. I don't know what that's a reference to.
Bear hunting, come on. So Amadoro makes a remark of oh, what is it? That old expression about moths jumping into the flame, and she starts firing, but fortunately Gokuraku knows well enough to run serpentine, and so dodging through all of her bullets and stuff. And Amadoro's like, damn, that guy's fast. So even though Gokuraku doesn't do a whole lot in this chapter, just a nice little reminder of hey, he is also very good and very strong.
Mm-hmm. Very much so.
Ichi observes that after a big burst, Amadoro's aim starts to waver. And he's making observations as he's going through. Is like, yeah, she's also aware of her blind spot, so let's get up close. And Gokuraku's like, all right, here we go. And he unleashes, after pressing a button on something. I don't know what he holds up in order to press this button.
I assume his arm. I don't know what else could be high enough to be ear length with his body.
He just wraps his leg around his shoulders briefly in order to tap the button.
I'm like, fair enough. I guess if I could just make my own joints, I would make them able to do complete 360s.
And it unleashes a smoke screen, which blinds Amadoro. She whirls around to fire at what she thinks is Ichi, but Ichi has unleashed a bunch of ice statues and stuff, all posing him in different attention-grabbing poses. And Amadoro's like, this is such a childish trick. And Ichi right behind her says, yeah, but it's fun. She turns and fires at him. Oh, nope, it was just another ice statue. So Ichi, keeps on mocking her, dashing between them. And so Amadoro's like, all right, fine. And so she has to get up in the air, which of course means that she uses her fucking gun to shoot herself up into the air. And now she's above all the reflections of the war surrounding her. And she's like, aha, now the whole field is in my sights. And we know that it's in her sights because freaking a targeting cursor comes over her eye in order to signify this. So she starts to summon a whole bunch of magic to unleash a massive burst. But Ichi says, when you hunt massive targets, you need lots of decoys. You confuse them, anger them, goad them into making rash decisions until you can lure them into jumping onto the spear all by themselves. And at that moment, Zairo blows into his whistle, which launches Minakata up into the air because he's holding on to it. And Minakata has his own blow, and he says, what were you just saying about Maz jumping into flames? And bah, bashes Amadoro right in the back.
And it's with that wood that makes women powerless, Nick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very concerning that this is just a thing that exists in this world.
It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Is your witch getting too up in herself? Hit her with the stick.
Just a guy coming home and be like, hey, I didn't like roast last night, so I'm just gonna just hits his wife with like a wooden spoon on the forehead and it's like, no, I don't have to deal with her the rest of the night. I can just take a watch what I want to watch.
Don't do your chores? That's a paddling. Try to use toxic magic to destroy the Eastern continent? That's a paddling.
I enjoy where we're generally getting. I'm still not entirely sure how to feel about Amadoro in all of this. I'm still waiting for like the additional details to come out to explain either A, why she's the traitor, or B, what's the going on that is basically putting her on this side. But I do think that despite the fact they're talking about how cool she is this like entire chapter, she hasn't accomplished anything except being like roundly defeated for deciding to jump into like a 1v5 situation. So I'm still kind of waiting for that part to kind of like fully coalesce into something. But I do like Ichi and Minakata having this sort of, easy language that they use to communicate with one another. Just, hey, yeah, remember the bear lesson? It's, instantaneously they both know what to do. And I think that is a very fun thing to build upon and expand upon.
Next chapter, Desker is going to be like, okay, Ichi, remember our secret code that we have?
He's like, the one where you call me a dog all the time?
Yeah!
The one where you made me eat out of a food bowl on the ground because it was, quote, funny?
That was really funny. Oh, boy. Yeah, clearly we are at the stage of like, all right, well, that's definitely not all there is to this. We're just kind of like waiting for the other shoe to drop. But I will say that, this was an enjoyable chapter with, some nice action beats. And it was nice to see Gokuraku actually have a role in this, however small. Too.
Exactly. All right. Blue box.
Yes. Chapter number 243, Effort. Featuring a little bit of Taiki and Shinatsu and on the cover. And they're just holding hands and stuff. But Taiki is in the middle of his match with Yusa. It's set point for Yusa as Taiki is trailing by 3. And so everyone's still trying to encourage Taiki on. As they are watching, Akari says out loud to Hyodo and Iozaki, I don't think I have what it takes to be great at badminton.
You're like, Hikari, girl, you probably don't, but now's not the time.
And so they're like, oh, you don't have to be so hard on yourself. And she's like, I practiced with Hyodo since I was a little girl. I am constantly getting my butt handed to me. But she says that even when it comes to just like purely putting in the effort, I am not as good at other people, which, of course, that's Taiki's strength. And she says, like, I can't make excuses for myself, though. I could say, like, oh, I don't have this or I don't have that, Iozaki. But putting in the effort is something you've got to do yourself. And then she goes to just thinking to herself, I'm sure that Taiki Senpai has had someone right beside him to help him realize that. Which, again, is further counterpoint to Miyazaki being like, you can't have anyone in your life. Dating? No, you can't focus on badminton and dating at the same time. Which is, fully ridiculous because sometimes people's relationships are good for them in their other
So
endeavors.
yeah,
Directly.
sometimes your romantic relationship actually strengthens you in your hobby/career. It empowers you to do better at all stages of your life.
Not every relationship is like that. And a lot of people would say if your relationship isn't like that, then maybe you do need to reconsider your relationship. Sure. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe Yuzaki is just like, maybe he's just got like no game. Maybe he's just like only met bad people. Like,
Every time he goes up to talk to a girl, all he does is bring up badminton for just 5 minutes straight, and that just doesn't work, apparently.
yeah. And so he's only ever dated female badminton players. And then it's like, yeah, that hasn't been good for him because he needs, like balance in his life and stuff. Nope. Taiki has a chance. He manages to smash the ball with this big leaping strike. But even from like the wide shot that we get, you can tell, that's out of bounds. And the judge weighs it off. And so unfortunately, that's how he loses the set point. And so Yusa is able to take the first game. So break between games first, they go to get, their breath. And we get a rare word from Taiki's coach.
I didn't know who this was for a split second. I was like, who the fuck's this old guy coming up and talking to Taiki about like giving him platitudes? Like, what is, oh, right, they have a coach.
And this isn't the jerk coach that they had like as a sub coach that one time when he and Kyo were in middle school or something. This is the actual Kyo. This is the actual coach, the actual coach. And so the coach just calls over to Taiki and just says, "Hey, you ever heard of the idiom even an arrow can pierce stone?" And Taiki's like, "What? What are you talking about?" And he just says, "There was once a person who fired an arrow at what they thought was a tiger and then realized it was a rock, but the arrow had pierced the rock deeply. If you approach things with enough determination and focus, you can achieve anything." Which he doesn't say it in so many words, but the idea is if you like believe you can't do something, then you can't do it. But then if you don't focus on what you can't do, then you can achieve what's something that is seemingly impossible, like shooting an arrow through stone. And the coach says to him, like, you've got the determination and you have the honed skills to do this. And Taiki goes, aha! Like very intensely. So but then he's like, that reminds me, like when I was a kid and I was just getting into badminton, I would always think of my smashes as like laser beams. And it's like, oh, that's a cute little connection there. It is along the lines of the worst part of the Prince of Tennis, which is like everyone's at their best when they're just trying to have fun and stuff. But explained, in a much better way here. Of like, hey, you think you're invincible when you're young and stuff, and sometimes you need to carry that mindset forward and not focus on like this person's better than me and I can't beat them. So as he takes the court, he says to the coach, I understand, like, yeah, I can't shoot laser beams from my racket now, but I'm gonna smash that rock anyway. Like, all right, go get him, Taiki.
Yeah.
So we get back into things, and unfortunately, Taiki does not start winning all of a sudden.
Yeah, like this. I was like, wow, the turnabout. Let's go see. Taiki's going to rip off that game too. Oh no, he's down by 3 points again.
He immediately falls behind, and then we start getting narration from Iyazaki's perspective as he is watching the game continue to unfold. And he says, I think being able to put in the effort is admirable. Being positive is the right attitude to have. But even for someone like me who has left a mark on badminton, all right, buddy, it becomes par for the course. It's a tough world out there. And we get more of the exchange that he had with his own coach, which was, the coach saying, you just think it's going to be easier if you give up, don't you? And Iyazaki's response was, yeah, I do. But I'm not trying to take it easy. And he says in his narration, the world is full of people who have it all. They have opportunity, they have talent, they have luck. And sadly, those people can be good at putting in the effort too. Ordinary guys could never hope to win against them. And then, as Yusa returns a shot, Taiki is able to dink it back over the net. And we get switching things over to Yusa's perspective, as he says, I've rarely ever felt lonely. I'm thinking about how to get better and what I can do to get stronger. That's all that fills my head. As long as I have badminton, as long as I have this sport. But Taiki still has people cheering him on, even as he loses another rally. He's now 3 points behind in this one. They're halfway through. Yusa's halfway through getting his second set, which means that he will win. And people are still cheering Taiki on. And Iyazaki's conclusion is just like, look, sometimes effort alone just isn't enough. So he's basically like, yeah, look, Taiki's putting in all this effort. He's got all these people behind him. Yusa's been putting in effort too, and he's also just more talented. Yep. So we don't get that turnabout yet. We had a little bit of a fake out of like, oh yeah, Taiki's gonna go and destroy that rock. Oh, he's still losing.
You're like, oh, actually, this rock has hands. It's not going down. Breaking a lot of arrows against this rock.
But we're not at the end of the badminton match yet, so we will see how things go in the next chapter.
Yes, we will. I will say, to a larger sense, I did enjoy the brief little bit of Hikari, though this did make me ultimately kind of question what her role in this series is supposed to be. I think of all the characters who were kind of introduced around that tail end of Taiki's first year and like into the second year, Hikari is the one who I'm like, we haven't really done anything with her. There was like a brief period where they presented the idea that like maybe she would be either an obstacle to Taiki's relationship with Shinatsu or potential spoiler for that news coming out. And it, neither of those ended up being reality. And now I'm just kind of sitting there and I'm like, okay, well, the only other thing we knew is that she's like the only female badminton player we know of. And even she's like, yeah, I don't think I should be playing. I don't think I'm very good at this sport, actually.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I guess I'm hopeful we get something with her down the line, because I feel like it would just be kind of like a sad bummer if like this is one of the last times we see her in any meaningful way.
It doesn't seem as though she was set up to be a peanut gallery character.
Yeah.
And I see what you're meaning there. Like it makes sense in a way for like, like Yumika, sure. Like the point that she's at now is like, yeah, if she's just kind of like an observer who comes by occasionally, or like, Karen, who's just kind of like, oh, she's, the girlfriend of one of the early supporting casts and stuff. And, she's also friends with Shinatsu, and she just kind of is like an outside observer in a lot of senses. Sure. But Akari was introduced in such a way that I get what you mean, where it seemed like she was going to be more personally involved directly with Taiki in a couple of ways, and she has just been deployed as an admirer of his, with occasional moments of insight that it makes sense for her to have as someone who is in that role. But she has not gotten really closer to him in the time that she's been there. So I get what you mean, where it's a curious thing that she hasn't been used more.
I wonder if there was ever an intention that Hyodo was meant to be more of like a significant rival to Taiki at any point in time, which would have been difficult to, just with the year difference between them and everything.
Right.
But her being his sister, who adds like a human element to otherwise a kind of Stonewall character, does make sense. But Hyodo is also kind of a tertiary character in this giant plot.
Yep. Yeah. I am curious, like, especially like with this stuff again, like setting up like, oh, Miyazaki being involved and stuff as well. Having characters that in a way seem like they're being set up to be relevant for like the past high school stage. And it's like, how long is this story going to go on? I'm curious. And I'm sure like, Blue Box is, quite popular. I'm sure it could go on like as long as it really wants to, but it doesn't really feel like it's going to.
We've gotten clues that it's not going to. I can't remember if there's been an official announcement. I want to say there was something from the author that was like, hey, we're headed towards, like in the, we're in the tail end of the story.
Yeah. So I don't know. But I guess we'll see, and it might be one of those cases where we just kind of like look back and they're like, okay, well, maybe there was like some wasted potential for that character. It happens to a lot of manga.
Yes, very much. Spy Family.
Speaking of a lot of manga, Spy Family, mission 135. Last time, Lloyd had been unexpectedly invited to a work party by Yuri, whose coworkers are like, all right, sure, we'll try and help you to realize that your sister's husband is worthy of her. And Lloyd is under the impression that they are all onto him and are trying to expose him as a spy. And things are really bad because now yours going to be there and she might meet Captain Curtis, whom he used it as a disguise one time. And oh no, everything's coming apart. And every single time that something bad happens, Lloyd starts to get really bad stomach ulcers and you can hear his stomach tearing.
Oh no.
The door opens. It's not Yor. It's the director of the secret police who was very, very briefly mentioned in the previous chapter. So briefly, I don't know if I mentioned that he was there when the setup was happening, where they were talking about a part and he was like, oh, can I come? They were like, no.
I need to note this chapter and the previous one. They give me like a little bit of stress, if only because these are like the situations where like I will have active nightmares about this, like the kind of situation like I have to get through this party without being discovered, and it's getting harder and harder with every second. When this dude showed up, I like literally felt my stomach drop a little bit. It's like, oh God, Lloyd, just jump out the window. It'll be fine.
It's not that you're worried that he's going to be exposed. You're worried that he's going to just be embarrassed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the other people are trying to be like, you need to go away. There are civilians here. You can't be here. You're in the central committee. There are pictures of you in the party newsletter. And he's like, people don't read those.
Have to admire it. I really do.
So while they're still outside, they're like, you need to wear a disguise. And so he comes in, he's got a stupid fake mustache, and he's got a pizza delivery outfit on. He's like, it's me, Mimima, the pizza guy. He's got a bunch of pizza, somehow. And immediately Lloyd's like, that's the director of the secret police. Spots him instantly, streaks out even more. And so he's like, oh no, the entire bureau is here. What's going on? What is happening here? So a lot of people are really upset that the director is there. And a lot of them are like, well, we just need to like get him out of here. And one of the secret police says, no. Do you remember that round the clock spy hunt that he forced us on based on the thinnest of intel? The rumor was that was out of spite because he didn't get invited to our New Year's party. And Lloyd just thinks to himself, why his agents were hunted down because he didn't get to go to a New Year's party. So yeah, now it's on top of Lloyd to not just not get discovered, but to make sure that the director of the secret police has a good time at this party.
He has to feel well accepted into this social group.
While the guy is pretending to be a pizza delivery guy. Which in which case is like, why'd you invite the pizza delivery guy in? Why are you having him mingle with people? This doesn't make any sense to do.
It's a weird call.
And so Mimima, quote unquote, goes over to Lloyd and he's like, you must be my boy Yuri's brother-in-law. It's like, why are you calling him your boy? You're the pizza delivery guy. What are you doing? He says he's the pizza guy, but one of the workers says, I'm sure you all remember our usual pizza delivery guy, Mimima de Cheese. Okay.
Yep. Everyone has a regular pizza guy.
Mimima offers a slice of pizza to Lloyd, and he's like, "Oh, thanks, but I'm full." You know, he's been having stomach ulcers and stuff.
Makes sense. Nick, quick question: Is pizza anachronistic in this time setting?
I don't fucking know.
Did they have cheese pizza back then? I guess they have television. So if they have television, then they've got to have pizza because they were invented the same day.
Yeah. I mean, if we consider that the war was kind of meant to be, there are definitely parallels between it and like World War II from a European perspective. Then that did involve Italy, you know. So.
Okay, all right, fair enough. I hope there's pineapple on that pizza then.
The director gets really upset when Lloyd doesn't want to eat the pizza, and he gets all imposing. He's like, "You're refusing to eat my pizza," and Yuri says, "Fool! Do not defy the pizza man," which is got to be up there with quote of the week, certainly. So Lloyd's like, "It's so good," and he's like, "My poor stomach." And of course, at that moment, then Yor shows up after all this has happened. And so Lloyd's is freaking out that Yor is there while he's got a pizza dangling out of his mouth. So that's good. Yuri says, "You're here, like a graceful crane landing on a garbage heap." And someone's like, "Did you just call us garbage?" Like, yes, he cares nothing for any of you. So, of course, Lloyd is really worried that Yor is going to, again, recognize the captain. And he's like, I mean, most people would think that it's, she wouldn't remember that. But if there's one thing I've learned, it's the normal rarely applies where Yor is concerned. He doesn't know why, though. Still hasn't gotten onto that idea. So Captain Kurtz introduces himself to Yor, and she's like, "Oh, what?" Because he's like, "I'm a fishing buddy of Yuri's." And Yor goes, "What? Yuri, since when do you fish?" And all of the, like, stomach torture noises that Lloyd been making instead go to as everything's okay now. Everything's fine. There's a moment where Yor says, because they're, "Oh, pleased to meet you." Or actually, I say that, but actually, is that the right phrase? I get confused because Anya says silly things sometimes around me. Aw.
So. Yeah, and I like that the version Anya says is "appeased to meet ya."
Appeased to meet ya. And Yuri says, "You need to get away from that moron before she drags you down to her intelligence level." Yuri's not a good uncle. As a professional uncle, I can say you're not a good uncle.
Professional uncle. Wow. Yeah. I didn't know you went pro. I knew you were good at it, but all right. I'm proud of you.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm on retainer. So Lloyd gets a moment where he's trying to be like, "Oh, if we stay around here, then they're going to figure out we're in a fake marriage. So shouldn't we go?" He's trying to get them out of this situation, but then Yor remembers a conversation she had with her workmates who were trying to give her advice about how she's feeling nervous around her husband and stuff. And she's like, "I want to just be able to spend more time around him," which of course is a big thing because she's realized she's in love with him now. So it does make sense that she's trying to be able to spend more time around him and stuff. And so Yor thinks to herself, "This is an opportunity for me to practice." So she's like, "No, I'm going to make a real effort today." And she grabs his hand so they're holding hands, which freaks out Lloyd and freaks out Yuri, of course. So then Lloyd senses another opening because Yuri is, being a stupid idiot. And so he's like, of course, we can drive Yuri away, and then I'll be able to just make up the excuse that I'm not feeling well and escape the situation. So instead, he switches tactics, puts his arm around Yor's shoulders and pulls her in close, which Yor does get, pretty flustered really quickly by that. But Yuri, starts coughing up blood. Because, of course. But then someone else has a bottle of wine. Yor's got a great idea because she's like, "This will help me to be more tolerant around them." And I really like how she does this because she darts out of Lloyd's arm and grabs the bottle and just tips it back and goes, "Don't mind if I do." Lloyd has another idea now that, Yuri's freaking out and Yor's getting drunk and the pizza guy is getting drunk, which is 007. I've developed a wristwatch tranquilizer. He just has this device from Frankie for no reason on him, which can be used as a tranquilizing needle. And so he's like, "If I knock Yor out with this, then I can take her home by acting like, oh, she's had too much to drink." And so he's trying to call Yor back over, and Yor's like, no, I can't tolerate his presence enough. I need more alcohol first. And so that's the level that we leave off on, this very quote unquote tense moment of Yor is trying to find alcohol and Lloyd is trying to figure out how to deploy the watch's firing mode, but he knows that he's got all these people who are going to pay attention to him, and he might not be accurate with it, and I'm sure it won't cause any further shenanigans in the next chapter.
Yes. I enjoy particularly the humor in the ending of Lloyd doing this, "Hey, come back here, Yor," sort of thing. And the entire time he's got his evil eyes on, his very serious spy eyes. And I just love him being like, "Come back to me. Dang, she's not doing it. Maybe not thinking like maybe if I scowl less, she'll be more like apprehensive to or more willing to come by my side.
Or just walk over to her. Like, oh man.
All right, let's move on. Let's talk about Hima-Ten, Nick, or should I say Hima 91?
You could say that, yeah. It's chapter number 91, Himari's Day. Last time, the answer that Himari and Tsubone had finally settled on to approach the controversial picture of her with Iemori was, what if I just release a whole book about my day and my life, and that way there can be pictures of you and stuff in it, and then we'll just like introduce who you are, and it'll just all be out in the open, blah. So, before that, though, Iemori wants to see how Himari's day goes, because somehow he doesn't know a lot about that. So he thinks to himself that this is probably going to be his last day as her house cleaner before I quit. You promise? It feels like we've gone through this like 4 times already. We get a flashback to establish like, what they're kind of like going to be doing in this photo shoot. Himari explains like, hey, here's an example of like, the kind that my book's going to be like. Yes, there are, glamour photos of this woman, but it also like goes over like, makeup. There's going to be essays. There's pages of designs. So I'm going to do this like huge, like tell-all expose of my life. It's going to be all about me and everything. And Himari asks like, hey, are you sure you want to do this? Do you really want to like, reveal like the stuff in the privacy of your own home? Because you've been keeping those very private this whole time while I've been working for you. But Himari says, I want to do it because the time is right. Because I want to do the tell-all expose to show the world the genuine me. And also, I want to make this a book that means something. I want it to be something I can cherish for the rest of my life. Yeah, she's 16, all right. So, Iemori goes to see Himari at her apartment. Himari's in her casual, well, mostly casual. Like, her hair is clearly styled, but it's, she's in her glasses and a hoodie and stuff.
I would say this is pretty close to her dress down mode that she does.
But it's not like, fully, because, like, she's not just in, like, all the scrunchies and stuff, is all I'm saying. So they are going to get started. Iemori gets introduced to like, oh, here's the cameraman, here's the publisher, the editor who's going to sell the book and everything. So they're all going to be working on this with us. And so Himari starts going through like, okay, so if I don't have classes or work, I still wake up really early in the morning. And the first thing I do is give Maro some loving, which, all right, good. That's good. And I really appreciate that Maro is being a proper cat and being entirely disinterested in this process.
It's like, why are you holding me? What's with this attention so late in the day? This isn't my routine. I hate this.
I didn't initiate this, so therefore I hate that you're being affectionate towards me. Stop it.
I like also how she's like, on the days where I don't have classes or work, I still wake up at 5 a.m. You still wake up at 5 a.m. because you have a cat, and the cat has a schedule, and it keeps you to the schedule.
That's why Nicole wakes up in the morning, definitely.
Yeah.
So she, goes a little bit into like, how she first got Maro and how she was like, yeah, I couldn't leave him on his own. And then Tsubone, who is in charge of like writing the book, she turns to him for, attention. And Iemori's like, wait, you're going to write down what I have to say? And she's like, well, yeah, I want more material to work with. That is how this works. Like, even if I don't actually quote you, I just want to have the option available, basically. And Iemori says, like, yeah, she said that she was going to take in Maro and protect him and stuff. She got this huge cage to help him out. And, that's, just like her, to jump into action. It was pretty cool and cute. And Himari's like, you ever said anything like that while I was actually doing it? Which, yeah, I mean, I understand her making that kind of comment too. But then Himari keeps on going and is like, all right, I eat yoga for breakfast, I make coffee, I finish my school assignments before I start working. So, the editor's like, oh, wow, you don't slack off when it comes to schoolwork. And she says, yeah, I run my own business, and I want to go to a good college. And it is just, again, a reminder of like how insane it is that Himari does all the stuff that she does while going to a regular school. Like she doesn't just have like tutors or anything.
Yeah. Question: did we ever find out why or how Himari came to running her own makeup brand at 16?
I don't think we really did.
Like, I'm trying to sit here and I was like, surely there must be something like, oh, like her parents had it and then they died or something and it got past her or like some great. Yeah, she started up a, makeup company at 16. Probably earlier, because I assume this is an established makeup company.
She's like famous.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's probably been going for a little while. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think this has ever been covered exactly how she got started up doing it. Yep. You think that will kind of be covered at some point in this tell-all book about her life.
No, we need to know if she plays with her cat in the morning.
Then she's, Himari's like, all right, I'm done with this stuff. Now I got to get ready for my next job because I've got to go to a photo shoot at the modeling studio. At this point, like her day is already like 5 hours in, and it's like she's only now just going to this modeling shoot. So she's, now she's like, talking to them like while she's like in the makeup chair and stuff. And she says like, yeah, if I just have a studio shoot today. So this is actually kind of like a short day for me. I have to get up even earlier. It's because sometimes we meet at 6 at some point, and then I have to do homework while I'm traveling. And so, Imori is just kind of like looking around at all this stuff going on. He's like, am I like allowed to be here? I feel like I'm an outsider in all of this. And it's like, you're the one who wanted to know what her life was like. So, okay, dude, whatever. There's a funny little moment where one of the other models taking part in the shoot with Himari comes over to greet her. They seemingly know each other because they're on like a first name basis. And Tsubone leans over to Iemori and goes, she's very popular. And Iemori goes, wow. It's like, well, it's good to know that you can appreciate being told that this other model is popular. Good. But admittedly, I would kind of be in the same situation myself. It's like, oh, you do modeling for makeup ads and stuff. Oh, you're popular. Okay, good. You're famous.
Oh,
right.
That's that. There's a whole industry for that. Did not know.
Then, they sit through like, some of the shoots. So it's Himari and a couple of other models. And, Imori just like actually has the realization of like, oh, she actually is a model, which, yeah, we're 90 chapters in and there has not been a whole lot of focus on this aspect of Himari's like professional career. It's been very much focused on like her products and stuff.
Yeah.
From what we have seen. So yeah, I do feel it's appropriate for Imori to go, oh, she's like a pro model. Like I didn't register that as reality.
Hey, I got a quick question. When I see Kana model, she always takes her clothes off. Why are yours still on? That seems.
Everyone in the shoot glares at him.
Was that a weird question to ask?
Yeah. So Tsubone is like. Also just points out like Imori's like really popular, and because Imori knows like, oh, not only is she like part of this shoot with a couple other models, but she's like in the middle. She's the most prominent of them. Mm-hmm. So shoot ends. It is 3:30 in the afternoon at this point, so they've been going for almost a full day at this point. Imori asks Himari like, hey, are you gonna eat lunch? And Himari's like, if I eat it now, I'm gonna be sleepy for my next job because I gotta go to a Hima Riz meeting. And so they sit down. She sits down at a table with some people in her company, and Iemori is like, Jesus, like, so this is like what she's like when she's like being full president. And I mean, it seems very, of course, broad strokes, yes. Of course, for a shonen manga that is not about running a business.
Yes.
But there is a nice note, which is that Himari, makes reference to Terasaka and is like, hey, I've got this friend who doesn't really have a lot of confidence in like wearing makeup products because she's, kind of a tomboy. She's a very athletic person. I want to have like products that cater to that kind of person to give them the confidence to actually like try out makeup and stuff. And it's like, hey, that makes sense that,
yes.
That is something in her life that she would care about. And it's like, yeah, okay, that's a nice touch. That is like, if you're going to have her say one thing in the entire series at this kind of meeting, this is a good example to use.
Yes.
So then it's, end of day at 6 p.m. And so finally Himari's like, all right, Iamori, I'm hungry. And so Iamori's like, all right, it's my turn now. And so now they're going to basically finish the day with like, oh, and then my personal house cleaner makes me fucking food. So,
yeah.
Which he doesn't do anymore because I'm firing him.
Whoa, we haven't gotten there yet. Any day now. He has to read that letter, then decide if he's keeping the job, and then we're there.
2 weeks. We swear it's 2 weeks away.
Yes.
It's been 2 weeks away for like 5 weeks, but it's 2 weeks away.
Any second now. Perfectly fine chapter. Not a ton to say. It did make me think a lot more, though, about the universe this story takes place in. I mean, like, no one really brings up how Himari got to this very pronounced position, and how do her employees feel about having to work under like a 16-year-old girl?
Yeah.
Like, does she have to fire people? Like, all those sorts of questions that come up to your mind. You're like, you know what? This isn't that complicated of a series. I guess I'm just going to push those questions in the back of my head.
Yeah. It also like throws into focus, like, if Himari started the business and has this many people working for her, holy shit. Like, she is making a lot of money with this business. So, yeah, I kind of feel like that amount of glamour has really not been much of. It feels like it has not a point that has really been hit very hard from what we have gotten in the series, which I don't think is really an issue in the sense that what we have gotten from Himari and Iamori, I think, has done a fine job of building up their relationship as being, sweet for the most part, like when it's actually focused on. And I think that if there had been more time spent focusing on like, oh, she's so glamorous and rich, that I don't think it would have really benefited their dynamic in that way. But it is just a weird detail for, like you said, the actual canon of the story, like what has happened in her life to this point.
I like to think magic wish. She was just like, I wish I owned a makeup company. And the genie was like, hey, I mean, all right, it's an interesting one. We'll see where this goes.
Oh, speaking of making a magic wish, Kinato's Magic, Chapter 16, Tarasu's Chronicles. Tarasu, the chief of the Majo, has approved for Kinato to be trained for 1 month, but if you can't learn to actually enhance your own magic, then we get to keep you here as a healer. It's definitely not indentured servitude. But Tarasu is kind of spying on Kinato's training sessions, so he's there with Latna, I think, and Kyoru. Karyu. I've got it. I remembered it.
Bravo to you, because I just basically continued this chapter and I was like, oh, these two girls don't matter.
There is a funny moment where Lana's like, all right, first lesson, find a rock and lift it. She just takes up a boulder and just lifts it. It's like, this is what you gotta do. And of course Kinato can't do that. So she's like, well, just do it. Come on. So it's almost as though like they don't actually know how to train this. And Karyu does explain, like, we're just born with the ability to manipulate mana. So this is just entirely intuitive. So Kinato's like, okay, well then what do I do? So he tries to just enhance his own magic in order to lift the rock. His shirt explodes off, and Tarasu's paying attention to him, and she's scribbling notes down when his shirt blows off. Yep. Several days go by. We get a little bit of narration from Tarasu as she's like writing in just like kind of her observation log. It's like, yeah, he seems weak at first, but the spell wasn't a destructive one. It was one that soothed the body and soul. And within an instant, I felt incredibly relaxed all over. And then she like realized like, I am writing these observations in a professional sense. It's not as though I was introduced as a professional woman in order to get my heart melted by the protagonist or anything. That's not my sole purpose in this story or anything. But she is very confident that like Hinata's not going to be able to like actually pass the trial at this point. So she's like, yeah, I gave him that outing because I just am planning on the village just like using him as a resource from here. She keeps on observing him over the days. Kinato keeps on going. He ends up falling off of a cliff. Tarasu, who is still focusing, watching closely, she rushes down to the end of to the bottom of the waterfall and catches him safely. And she's like, I don't mind like watching you struggle and make a fool of yourself, but I am protecting my village's investment in you.
You are not going to just be killed on my watch either.
Right. So Kinato starts to thank her. She then boom, flunks him into the water, goes off, scribbles in her diary, I touched a man's body.
It's honestly a very funny panel. She's like sucking in her lips as she's doing. Her eyes are like bugging out of her head. She's more excited about today than any other day in her life.
And it's just like it's not like it was in any way actually like tantalizing. She just had his sternum in her grip, basically. Yeah. Kinato goes to bathe at the end of the day because, he fell in a freaking waterfall. And so he's get cold. Latina grabs him and is like, all right, you can join me for a bath. And Kinato's like, no, I can just take one later. And Latina's like, oh man, there's such a pain. Stop being shy. So she has the approach of like, yeah, I've never met a man in my life. What's the problem here? Whereas Tarasu, whom they barge in on, is like, what are you doing here? Latina, weirdly enough, goes squee when she sees Tarasu almost naked. Tarasu gets embarrassed.
That's a very straight reaction to have.
Very straight.
Yeah.
Very straight reaction for this village full of women.
Yeah.
Who I'm sure just like, spend their days together doing, playing Parcheesi, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they go in the outdoor bath after that point. And it's kind of, I don't know, weird that Latina freaked out about Tarasu's state of undress, and now they're like, next to each other in the bath naked. And she's not, okay. All right. So Latina's, talking with Tarasu, and she says, he's going to be hopeless unless he actually builds up his muscles and stamina, but he does have a lot of determination. Oh, and also, and so she just gets out of the bath and is like, hey, do that thing we always do after training. And of course, Kinato's like, put something on first. And so Lana's like, all right.
I love her line. She's like, you make such a big fuss over a couple of titties hanging out.
Yeah. What's your problem, dude?
They're just breasts. Calm down.
Be a bro. So, of course, Kinato has been, using his magic on his trainers after they're done training. So he uses it on Latina to help out with her flexibility and stuff, and she gets all, relieved afterwards. And then she's like, all right, I'm going to go run another lap, and throws her towel off in order to just go running around naked, I guess. So Tarasu says to Kinato, like, all right, well, use your magic on me. And then says the lines that I'm sure don't have any double meaning at all whatsoever. Do it slowly. Even gently is fine. Okay. So Kinato uses his Seitai magic on her as well. They talk a bit with each other while that's happening. And she says, were you just born with the eyes that you have? And he's like, yeah. And so she asks, so can you see the flow of mana? And he explains, yeah, I can see abnormalities when I compare them to normal body structure. And then Tarasu says, but you can't see your own mana then. And he says, no. And I also can't use it with a physical boost either. So Tarasu, says what she's been saying to herself the whole time, but says it, in a more kind sense to him. You might just be training just to put yourself through hardship for no reason. In this world, your innate skills are everything, and they're not easily changed. I was born as the chief with the weight of a long history, and I take pride in protecting our unchanging traditions and customs. And she says something that I do kind of like, which is change does not always mean progress.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very simple phrase that I feel like there is actually a lot of precautious wisdom in there. And Kinato says, okay, I do understand what you're saying, but if there's something you want to change about yourself, I think it's important to at least try, even if you're not able to change. And that definitely leaves an impression of some sort on Tarasu, because she immediately gets up and she says, "Stand, I'm going to give you a reward." And Kinato's like, "Okay, didn't really do anything." So Tarasu holds her hand out and she says, "Place your palm against mine." And then from there, she's like, "Okay, now block my punch." And so they start sparring with each other while they're wearing towels, which seems like disaster just waiting to happen, of course. Uh, and she explains that what they're doing is called the makarenge, a kind of dance that they learn when they're children. And she says it begins slowly, but you gradually increase your physical boost power as you go about it and refine control. And right as she says that, she elbows him right in the guts. But she says, like, I mean, it's going to be impossible for you to just learn this in a single month of training, of course. But oops, she elbowed Kinato in the gut, and he starts to collapse, and she freezes up, and he lands over top of her. It's not like touching her, but he's braced directly above her body. And Kinato gets really excited and says, like, "Okay, well, I'll figure this out and master it." And then Tarasu kicks him away for getting too close to him. Yep. And so that's it. Tarasu definitely doesn't have the hots for Kinato at all.
Mm-hmm.
That's definitely not going to play any role in the next couple of chapters. And also, I continue to have no idea what the pacing of this story is.
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit interesting right now. Though I will say this has been the first Kanato's chapter or Kanato's magic chapter in a while that I can like legitimately say like I really enjoyed this. I think the dialogue was pretty good. I think Tarasu herself was really fun and interesting in this chapter. She had a lot of good jokes. The side characters were amusing. Kinato himself came off better than he had previously. And it just, I don't know, gave me like those vibes of like, oh yeah, this is like a really fun manga when it's trying to be. I think it helps that we've toned down on the, if he hits you with his thing, sometimes you might get like a Shokugeki no Soma level reaction or whatever. It's just, a little bit silly and stuff like that. And that stuff's all fun.
Yeah. I think as well that it helps that we have, for the moment, lowered the stakes. So, because there was so much going on where it's like, oh my gosh, someone's, the village is going to be destroyed. All these people that we don't really know are going to be in danger and stuff. Whereas we're at the stage now where it's like, okay, if something bad starts to happen now with the Majo village, we've taken a bit of time to like get to know 3 different members of the village and are getting to know their different personalities and are warming up to them. And so to have that breathing room, I think has really helped out, not just for like, establishing like, those longer term stakes, but yeah, like you said, in this chapter where it's just like, hey, just a little bit of stuff just gets to happen. You just get to have a little bit of fun with it. I don't think that every joke lands, but I think that this is, like as you said, like one of the better chapters we've had of it in a while.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Someone hurts, Nick. Someone out there.
Someone? Oh.
Yeah.
For someone. Yeah, it's chapter 34, Gyoza. The cover page this time is Mimei and Mizuo having stumbled into a giant bird's nest, and they have to pretend to be its chicks. Isn't that silly?
I like that there's like a whole story to this one. Usually it's just like,
what a prompt.
Mimei, he ordered too much popcorn, and now he doesn't know what to do with it. And then this one, they're like, okay, so they're both in a bird's nest. They have to escape, but they have to use subterfuge to get out.
Mizuo, for some reason, has a badminton shuttlecock that he can use for her disguise.
Yeah, I don't quite get that part, but yeah, makes sense.
We get some details on how the rookie round is going to work, which is that yes, there's going to be a break in the one-liners because that's happening. So Mimei is just thinking to himself like, all right, next week's the rookie round. Oh man. They make reference to there being a pachinko prompt, which we fortunately did not get and didn't have to come up with anything for. summer break is coming to a close soon, and so Mizuho says like, "Hey, can you come to Nachi's cafe tomorrow afternoon? Because there's some people who said they wanted to see you, and they're waiting on violent breath." And he's like, "I hope it's not actually violent. I hope she meant something else." We cut to the cafe the next day. Mizuho is working on a calligraphy project. So she's got, one of the giant, reams of paper, and she's, writing out some stuff on it. And Nachi is at her counter in the background waving flags to cheer Mizuho on. Oh, man. So, yeah, Mizuho is there, and it turns out she has gotten Mokumo and Reiji to arrive. And Mime refers to Reiji as Reichan. And he's like, "Don't call me that. Call me Takayama." And Mokumo's like, "Reichan, say hello."
I also like how they're like, "Wait, how did they get here?" And Mizuho is just like, "When you guys were arguing, we exchanged phone numbers."
Phone numbers, yeah.
Like humans, we decided to just communicate with one another.
And Reiji just says, like, "Mokumo got me to come with her because she wanted to eat a big parfait." Like, food was the motivation. That's all. But Mokumo says like, "Oh, I forgot to tell you. Yeah, you said all those rude things the other day, so I figured that you should use this opportunity to make up with Mime before the rookie round." And so, because, like, there was that weird moment of like, what if you lost? Wouldn't you fucking feel bad about your hobby and stuff then? And so Mizuho says, "Oh, you want to make it up to me? Bring me a charger with a cable that will never break. This girl knows the important things in life." And none of those things that fucking just say, "Oh, the wire broke." Fucking hell.
The number of times I'm like, I finally, it took forever, but my cat finally stopped chewing through my cables. And I was like, finally, now there's one that'll finally stick. No, apparently I turned it like got turned too many times when I was plugging my phone in and out. It just frayed. And I was like, this cheap bullshit. Come on. So I gave it to my cat to eat.
Right. There's a weird little note where Mokumo's like, "What's with the calligraphy you had?" And Reiji's like, "It's like a grade schooler's homework." And Mizuho says, "This is my first name," even though what she was writing on the banner was Gyoza. And so Mime's like, "Why are you saying that? Why are you telling that lie?" But at that moment, a parrot says something, and it just starts saying, "From listener, eel potato, from listener, eel potato," and then it flaps off. They're like, what the hell was that? Turns out there is a cafe regular who is a Mon-Mid listener who posted a flyer for a missing bird this morning. The chapter plots of this series are weird sometimes.
Yeah, it is crazy. Though I do need to interrupt us real quick. My friend Doug asked if we could put out an APB. His dog escaped recently. So if anybody, if you could,
dog.
Yeah, if you could look out your window, if you see a dog, could you just call Doug and just let him know? I don't remember the details. I think it had fur. So if you could do that, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
You think? Okay, you're pretty sure.
Right. I'm like 86% sure it had fur.
Yeah. So, yeah, the parrot listens to the show with its owner, and that's why it's announcing, from a listener, Eel Potato, because it hears that all the time. Yeah. Silly. So Mokumo's like, "Let's go look for it." Nachi just sees Mokumo and is like, "I'm going to recruit her to be a maid too." So Reiji immediately is like, "You need to stay away from this person. She seems like trouble." And Nachi says, "You rude little brat. How about I make you a maid too?" What kind of a threat is that?
I don't know why. I really enjoyed the moment after this where they're walking along the road and I forget her name, Mokumo. I don't know. I guess she's just so spaced out that he like pushes her to the outside of the road. He's just like, I don't want you walking up against traffic.
There is like a guardrail because, they take public safety a little more seriously in Japan. But yeah, he's still just like, "Let's move you over here."
They don't use public safety as sort of like a Darwin-esque only the best survive sort of system. Weird.
So they're trying to figure out which way the bird flew. And because and Reiji says like, hey, we got to be careful, like, because we're calling for this bird, so we can't just disturb the neighbors. Because Mokomo gets the idea of like, hey, what if we like use a replay and you have the podcast to play it on the radio and stuff. And Reiji's like, we can't turn the volume up too high. And Mizuo thinks sagely to herself, and then she says, to sum it up, you feel like a voluminous neighbor is going to fly over and have a midnight moon viewing. And Mimei says, well, you don't have to sum it up, first of all. Reiji asks Mokomo if she wants him to carry her bag. And she's like, I can carry this bag. It's all tiny and stuff. And Mizuo and Mimei are just kind of like, I mean, come on. Like, we're us, and like we can see this like going on between them. They spot the bird. Reiji and Mimei go taking off after it. Mizuo tries to keep up, immediately trips, and Mokomo's like, "Are you okay?" And Mizuo says, "Yeah, I wanted to take a little trip, but bum." Mokomo helps her to her feet, and Mizuo asks her like, "Hey, so like, by the way, are you gonna enter the rookie round?" And she says, no. And it's like, I'm not actually the one-liners that I got credit for, those were actually ones that Ray-chan helped me out with because I wanted the keychain. Oh, how sweet. And she's like, yeah, he got more into it than I did, and he's just kind of like always like this because he's so competitive and stuff. Mimei and Reiji are off running after the bird. Reiji, as they're running, is like, hey, that unnecessarily intense exchange we had when we first met, where I was like, I said you I said you were gonna hate Mohammed if you lost. I was wondering why you said you wouldn't and everything. And so they explained some stuff off panel, and then Reiji sums it up by saying like, oh, so because of Eel Potato basically. And then he's like, what's with her handle name, by the way? Why is she called Eel Potato? And Mimei Mimei thinks of an exchange that they probably did have, which was Mizuo saying, my name's Origin. I got it from the father of modern radio, E.L. Potato. It's like, I don't actually know where Origin came from.
Nick, do you remember the good old days of the early internet where one of the first questions you'd get asked is, where does your online handle come from?
Mm-hmm.
Good times.
People don't really care about that much anymore.
Everyone's like, whatever. Honestly, they're like,
that.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So Mimei says like, hey, why'd you like start getting into Mohammed if like you've got like the way that you want to work in mind and stuff? And Reiji just says like, well, because Mokomo-chan likes Mohammed. And he just says straight up, Mokomo-chan only sees me as her childhood friend. The number one thing she focuses on isn't me. It's always something or someone funny. And I guess it's half true that I'm doing this for future job prospects, but I don't care if it's like radio, one-liners, whatever. If I can just be the best in Mokomo-chan's eyes, she might start thinking that I'm cool. So I've got to put on a little face if I'm going to tell my childhood friend that I like her this late in the game. And then it's like, oh wow, he just fucking told me. He just straight up said like, yeah, I like her. And so he's like, and then he's like, oh yeah, so all those little gestures and stuff that he was doing when we were running, yeah, he actually just likes her as a girl. Okay. And then Reiji, of course, says, oh, same goes for you, right? And Mimei freezes up at that moment. Mokomo and Mizuo both show up, and Mizuo says, Mimei, I'm in love. And the bird on her head is on her head going, I'm in love. So, yep. It's perched on her head. She's worried it's going to assimilate with her, which is very silly. And then they're like, all right, well, they got the bird back. They go back to the cafe. They give it to the bird's owner, whose face we do not even get a good look at because he's not important.
Yeah, he is irrelevant to the story. It was a plot
device, yeah.
He is not Battle Chimney or anything like that. This is Dude Who Listens, number 2.
Yep. So Nachi's like, oh, let's have some big parfaits as a treat and stuff. And then she says to Mokomo, by the way, do you want to work here part-time? Afterwards, Reiji says to Mimei, like, hey, listen, I am going to win the Listener Quotient. I'm going to win that upcoming rookie round. Don't tell anyone that I told you I like Mokomo. And I'll keep quiet about your crush on Eel Potato, too. And
Mm.
as they're leaving, May's like, that's not like that! It is not!
We're just good friends and good stand-up comedy rivals.
Later on, Mime is listening to the Long Hopes, and so they get an announcement like, hey, by the way, since the winner of this is going to be decided in real time, and we're taking this very seriously. They're in like formal kimonos in their broadcast booth and stuff, and they say, so this tournament is typically held 3 months before Listener Koshian, and the winner gets awarded 5 points. So Mizuho wishes Mime good luck, and then she thinks to herself, I've got 8 points right now, and Mime's got 3, so he wins. And she thinks to herself that note that she gave to Mime, like, I can't fall in love with anyone unless they're funnier than Eel Potato. And then she just thinks, he's going to have the same score as me if he wins.
Interesting.
Also, I don't think we've ever actually seen Mizuho's hair from the back like this.
And
it's a lot weirder than I thought it was.
I was like, who is this? And then I just realized, oh, she's got layers, but like,
yeah, layers
that aren't near each other at all. It's a unique look.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do appreciate that. Whenever we get this little look into, like, Mizuho probably has some feelings for Mime, but she has just such a weird veil of weirdness around her that it just kind of gives you these little notes of it here and there. And Mime, meanwhile, is too busy being a nervous teenage boy to understand it.
Yeah.
But it was quite refreshing to have a guy character and just be like, yeah, I like this girl, and I'm just like trying to like kind of like look as cool as possible because like I'm in a weird position with her because of our pre-existing relationship.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely made Reiji a more endearing character after the unnecessary intensity that he had in his first encounter with Mime.
Absolutely. All right, speaking about intimidating encounters, Nick, it's Ultimate Exorcist Kiyoshi.
The Ultimate Exorcist Kiyoshi. Yeah. So everyone has given their energy to Kiyoshi. He's wearing Astaroth's cloak, which it turns out Hydrico just like brought with her so that he would look cool, basically.
Not a bad plan.
All right. As we get into Chapter 93, Ultimate Demon Realm Kiyoshi. So Helzabobo suggests, like, are you seriously suggesting that, like, all these weaklings, the power they gave you is going to actually work against me? And Kiyoshi just says, yeah, shoots a bullet at him in his face. And it's imbued, it's his priesthood power, but it's imbued with this black energy from all this demonic power that is inside of him. Helzabobo tries to call down lightning on him. Kiyoshi just summons a shield over his back. And Kiyoshi promises, like, I'm going to show you. You call these demons weak, but this power is born of their hopes. And he punches him in the gut. We get a little bit of conversation between Sosuke and Shuten and Hydrico. And because, Sosuke's like, he's got, like, black precept power. And Shuten, being part demonic, says, like, yeah, that's what happens when you mix demonic power with precept power. Yep. He says, I've never seen it before, which I'm like, okay, I guess you haven't ever, like, teamed up with anyone, though. Whatever. So, Bobo, catches his bearings, and he says, like, you're still not going to change the future. This will be our final showdown. I'll wipe out all of you. And he summons another big old black ball of energy over him. He's going to do another giant cataclysmic attack thing. So Kiyoshi takes another deep breath. He crosses his arms to prepare the Lux Nova Stella. And Boba's like, I've defeated that move already. You think it's going to work this time? But Kiyoshi gathers energy to his palm, and he says, everyone has entrusted me with this power. Lux Gigant Stella. And the image that Astaroth sees that Bobo sees, is Astaroth over Kiyoshi's shoulder preparing the attack.
Mm-hmm.
And Kiyoshi vows that he's going to protect the people of the Roth territory. So Bobo's like, all right, here we go then. And he summons a giant ball of black energy from the clouds above them to call it down from the heavens, sends it striking down towards Kiyoshi, who has to battle back against it. It's not quite a beam struggle, really, because he just has the attack gathered immediately in his hand, and he's using it to kind of hold up the energy burst. Everyone is watching the exchange of attacks from below. Shuten starts to get a little bit worried, and Sosuke says, "It's going to be okay. Harai won't lose." And then Bobo starts to have a flashback because he's like, I'm going to win. I'm not going to end up like my mom. I'm glad I saved them for the very end. I'm your big brother, and your lives belong to me too." And he starts to think of Gaga and Lulu, and starts to call out Black back to call the energy that he loaned to them. But before he can do so, Kiyoshi says, "Hell's a Bobo! I also know the pain of losing a mother. It's hard and scary, but that doesn't make it okay to hurt somebody. That strength you trained so hard to develop, isn't it meant to protect somebody?" And Bobo starts to remember, of course, his mother's words of like, hey, you've got to have the strength to protect someone. You've got to be strong enough to protect your little sister and brother. And Bobo's like, no, fuck that. No, those are just words. Those who need protecting should disappear. And Kiyoshi challenges him, and he says, what would some human know about me? And Kiyoshi says, a lot, because I was also running away from my fears. My legs froze up and I couldn't move, but I only realized after somebody taught me just how important even a little bit of courage can be. I was saved by a demon. I couldn't realize it on my own, and that's why this time I'm going to save you. And he starts pushing back the attack, and as Bobo starts to get overwhelmed by the force forcing back against him, he thinks, I always knew. I averted my eyes from my mother's death. I denied my mother's existence. The truly weak one was me. And the blast goes up in his face. His body starts to crumble. He collapses and just woods into the ground, defeated. And Kiyoshi, he's out of breath, but he's emerged victorious, and Shishido says, Harai, you're a punk as hell. And the victory! Fanfare.
Hey, we finally got there. It took us a little bit, as said. I don't know if we needed the last chapter necessarily, but I did really appreciate this chapter delivering on a conclusion that felt appropriate for the scale we had kind of built things up to. Like, hey, this guy is incredibly powerful. How do we do a big final, clash? We've already seen these guys punch each other and shoot each other and all these sorts of things 1,000 times. Like, let's, for the sake of this, kind of just boil this down to two Kamehamehas going against each other. And that's fine. It's shonen. That's like a proven successful element to just like make the final plot, beat of a fight. And I think it really worked. I also like how rigid and pointy Bobo's face became at certain points during this. I don't know why, but it added a very unnerving element to him, which kind of fit with him going kind of insane in this moment. And I like, it's not a huge surprise that there is a moment of redemption for Bobo in there, but I do like them reiterating, didn't you do this to protect somebody else? Weren't you this strong so that you could protect your family? It's nice stuff that they get in there.
Yeah.
I also really like Kiyoshi connecting on just I also know what it's like to lose a mom. It sucks. It's really hard and scary. It's good stuff.
Yep. You gotta have empathy.
Yep.
Yeah. I feel like it ticked the appropriate boxes. I don't think it was a super exceptional finale, but it was appropriate for what it was being. And it paid off on the stuff that had been built up well. So
Gotcha. Yeah, good stuff.
Okay, Marriagetoxin, chapter 166. Last time Tonoko disappeared in the choppy waters and stuff like that, and Garo didn't really have a chance to go after her. Kimihiko said that he would take care of things. We find out in this one that she wasn't leaving; she was throwing herself into the ocean, as in to die. Oh. Because, Shichiro, her wolf is coming down after her, and she just is, calling out to him in her mind, look, you can just go back to the woods. I can't be your master anymore. But then she wakes up, And yeah, Kimihiko has rescued her and has gotten a whole bunch of his rats to form a raft for her and for Shichiro. And so she gets up and she says, "Look, the weak are incapable of protecting their clan. I'm not worthy of carrying on as the Beast Clan head." And Kimihiko says, like, "Look, Tonoko, from a young age, you have always strived to stay strong to protect your family. But what lies at the very marrow of the Beast Clan isn't something so grand as survival of the fittest. No matter how ugly and pathetic you become, as long as you survive, you win." Hmm. Also, we see Tonoko with her little Shiba Inu pup. It's so tiny.
Little tiny guy.
Yeah. And she thinks of how, like, bonding with that pup brought the divine beast Shitro to me. And she looks overhead, spots the giant bat dragon thing that is carrying Garo and his friends to safety. And she realizes that Toshiro has also finally gotten to that point as well. It was called to him. And she says, "It's strange. My once-in-a-lifetime confession of love just failed miserably, and yet I feel so at ease right now. I wonder where I can find myself a good man." You got any ideas, Kimihiko?
Just absolutely.
Like, I know they're related, but that still feels like a put down.
Oh yeah, 100%. You're like, "Hey, do you know any good guys?" Like, me? No, good guys.
Oh, you mean like the type that'll protect you and keep you safe when you're at your lowest moment? Yeah, like how I pulled you out of the water. Yeah, a guy like that. Yeah,
like someone like that, but a guy. He's like, "What am I to you?"
Oh boy. With Garo's company, Kinosaki starts off by saying, like, "I'm sorry, this was my doing. I asked Tonoko to get Garo to a safe place in the sanctuary, and I thought I had to." And Garo's like, No, I have something I need to say." And he turns to all three of them and he says, "I am so sorry. All the obligations that fettered me, everything with Natsu, all of it, I was convinced that I had to settle everything by myself. Now I realize that path wouldn't lead to anyone's happiness. So to face everything head on and see my will through, I ask you all to lend me your strength." And then he starts to have some doubts because he realizes how high the odds against them are. But Kinosaki and Arashiyama and Ushio all jump in and they're like, of course we're with you. We're ready to help. You don't even have to ask. And exchange of smiles between everyone. And then after that sweet little moment, Garo realizes, "Oh man, I'm tired." He just collapses after everything, and he just is out. Ushio is a bit hard on herself in this moment because she's like, "I just gave my word to aid him. I have made a totally unreasonable promise. This adversary is nothing like the disgraced Fire Clan. This is the doll user. It doesn't matter how much money is at stake for me. I can't just make monies out of him and the Garo family head. That is ludicrous for business." Then she remembers the moment when she was curled up at Garo's side when they were at the Fire Clan together, and she thinks, "No, I can't go on pretending like this. It's time to be honest with myself and this feeling seriously." And when she gets kind of sheepish and is like, "I expect you to take full responsibility for making me your ally." Aw. Then we get Arashiyama's perspective on this, which was like, up until now, I've just been a fledgling specialist. But during this crisis, I feel like I've finally become a full-fledged hamster user. That's a sentence in this manga. Yep. I love this series. She says, "After a long time searching, I finally got to reunite with my missing brother, and he acknowledged my abilities. And as I am now, I can probably hold my head up high as I stand beside Hikaru Garo. I've become someone who can share in the burden that Hikaru Garo shoulders. I think." And her hammy gives her a little pat. Yes. And then she gets really, really emotional. And she's like, "I'm going to be a tiger from now on, so you better prepare yourself, Hikaru Garo." And then we go to Kinosaki. And Kinosaki thinks this is the most tormenting trial yet. So at least for now, I hope you can rest well, Garo-kun. So the only one of the three who doesn't have some big, okay, time to be honest with my emotions moment, of course, is Kinosaki among them.
Which makes sense. There's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, it also makes sense in terms of like the way that the exchange begins between them, with Kinosaki starting to apologize for his role and things, and Gero being like, "No, no, I have something to say first," and that's what takes all the focus and stuff, and it takes away the focus of like, "Hey, Kinosaki was in a really weird place that led to their role in contributing to this whole situation, and we are not resolving all of that yet. That is still stuff that is going to remain unsaid, probably because they're the end game. But so,
Yeah.
I do appreciate it whenever there is a moment in a long-running series where they tease and tease and tease and tease out stuff like this, where one of the characters finally at least acknowledges, like, I actually have feelings for this other person, and we got 2 of them in this chapter. So it was nice to see that progression and to see, hey, although this arc was not perfect, a lot of stuff did come of it. Hooray.
Yes. Very good stuff. And of course, we're talking about good, Nick. We got to be talking about new Exorcist.
I'm so confused, Quinn. we had all that talk about, like, man, things are going at this breakneck pace. Is it possible that we're, like, trying to, like, unexpectedly end things really quickly because, the previous opponent, like, we just kind of like wrapped up that arc incredibly quickly after having all this stuff about, like, oh, the 5 keys you gotta get. No, we're skipping all that, going right to the final battle. We got this where, like, some other opponent got eaten in order to accelerate to Kasha instead. Oh, he survives and gets away in this chapter for another fight later.
It was like, hey, here's like 3 chapters about this incredibly intense, savage fight where these characters are chopping each other apart. They're absolutely like goring each other with their weapons. It looks like multiple characters might die in this incredibly intense showdown. And then, yeah, he just kind of like, just like teleports away. So I guess everybody's super excited for the Kasha Gakuro rematch.
It's so weird. Have we had a rematch like in New Exorcist before?
Very notably, Gakuro kind of lost/tied with a level 4 spirit, and he never encountered that spirit again in any meaningful way. So,
yeah.
Well, he's kind of past. I think he like quashes a level 4 spirit at this point. So unless they escalate that guy up to a Hyo at this point.
Yo. Chapter 146, I'll surpass you. Get up! Come on, Gekka!
Kicking her in like the side. What are you doing? Being lazy!
Gekka shoves herself up to one knee and is just like, just focus on the fight, Gakuro. And he's like, yeah! Kasha starts talking like a robot, but going, damage is intense. A whole bunch of faces come out of his chest wound, and he says, I must recover. Hollow weapon, release. Halls of purgatory. That's a mothership. That is... it's just a spaceship. This fucking UFO comes out of nowhere. Bunch of needles stick into a body with the spine dangling out of it, and the spine digs down into the ground in front of Kasha, and he grabs the spine, and the faces in his torso go and feed into the spine, and he says, I didn't want to ingest more of Dragon King Kurikana until my body was accustomed to him, but I have no choice. I can't even retreat at this rate. And so, Gekka, who has to do everything for Gakuro,
really does.
Attack him. Don't let him. He's like, I can't even recover. I better just stand here.
It's a point where you're almost like, is he a Pokemon at this point and she's the trainer? Like, does he have the agency to make a choice and do an action without her declaring it to him first?
She's got to like select the options. Bling, 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 bling. Why is it so hard to declare an attack in this game? Bling, bling, bling.
Gakuro, use Xenoblade. Xenoblade. Ah, fuck it. Just whatever.
God damn it. Just attack him. Kasha's hollow weapon UFO fires lasers from its bottom in order to keep Gakuro at bay. But then Nue and Tomonaki show up in order to help out. So Nue So Nue says, sorry about that. We got tied up. With what? With what? I know there was like a whole thing with a shield and stuff. What were you doing?
I believe the individual who shows up to help Kasha later on suggests that's what they were busy dealing with. But it's
then they didn't deal with it.
That's what I was gonna say. Then it's very funny because they just were like, man, fuck it. And they just left, and the other dude also left, and then they both intersected again.
If they got there first, then that means that they didn't deal with him because. So Gakuro says, Kasha's trying to retreat. We managed to inflict lethal damage, but he's trying to recover. Which point it really should have had someone say, well, then it's not fucking lethal, is it?
Didn't seem like it was lethal damage, then, champ.
Tomonaki and Nue launch their attacks, and Kasha fires his laser cannon thing again, and I don't know really what happens here. I think that what happens is that Tomonaki's attack darts around in front of the Xenoblade that Nue launches, and it makes a slipstream in the laser.
Yes.
Which is how lasers work.
Mm-hmm.
And so the sword follows after Tomonaki's attack, which is shielding it with the lightning blast, although it looks like the lightning blast could just like beat the laser, honestly. They're lightning. So then a shield appears around Kasha, and it's Raisei who's there. And so Raisei says, I got tied down. So I guess they were fighting, and then they both showed up here, and Raisei was slower. I don't know. So big barriers around them. But then, before they can break through the barrier, a big old creepy portal made of shadow hands appears around them, and it starts to pull in Kasha and Raisei to safety. And Kasha's like, I'll be going now. I've seen the extent of your powers now. Once I absorb Dragon King Kurikara, I know you'll be no threat to me. This was your last chance. And Nue says, yeah. She has a comeback line, but it's so lame. she's like, well, you're running away though. That's it. And but Kasha points out, like, your strongest warrior will never fight again. Like, that's how badly wounded Gekka is, allegedly. But he says hollow weapons that have been destroyed by the Kurikara Black Dragon Sword can no longer be used, and Gekka's hollow weapon was nearly broken when it destroyed my scabbard. Without Gekka, you don't have a ghost of a chance.
It's so impossible for me to hear that line and not use the Yu-Gi-Oh! Dub version of it.
Absolutely not. Yes. What a crime that would be. Tomonaki has picked up Gekka and is attending to her. Gekka says, they've got chances in spades, you bastard. Gakuro will take you down. They're still not through that portal yet. So Kasha calls through it. He only managed to strike me with your help. What could someone that weak do? And Gekka says, he can do anything. Gakuro saved me and Tomonaki. He will smash up your ambition without even trying. Which I feel like it should have cut to Gakuro at that point as he went,
oh. I don't.
My headset fell off. No.
Oh no! Don't talk to me. Don't make any promises. I'm really bad at this.
So, Kasha mocks them and says, show me what Gakuro can do. I've implemented my plan in the depths of the earth for a millennium now. With no pride and no carelessness, I'll solemnly plunge you into... Are you through the portal yet? Raisei was through this portal in seconds. Why are you taking so long? I've got one more thing to say.
He's like, it turns out the elevator up is a lot slower than I thought, so... How are you guys doing today? Anything new? Seen any good movies recently? Scary Movie 5 is kind of coming out a little bit late, don't you think? Oh, okay, I'm gone now. Bye, you're doomed.
They finally get through. Gekka takes Gakuro's hand, or rather, Gakuro takes Gekka's hand and says, please, train me. I have to defeat Kasha, the one who destroyed Fujino and her family. Who's Fujino? I feel like she was supposed to be here. But I don't know. It's like we're
I know
referencing characters that
Gekka.
aren't important. Yeah, it's Were there other girls that helped Gakuro at some point? I feel like there was a cover with a bunch of girls on it at some point, but I don't know. It seems like none of them are important now. So, Gakuro makes the ugliest face that he has made in this series so far. This is so weird.
This has honestly been a weird arc in general, because while there are moments where Kasha and other aspects of this look really good, some of the faces have been brutal in this sequence, and this particular face at the end was really one of the most glaring, where I was like, no one wanted to take another stab at this one? Is this how you think the most conviction in a face is when you start like squinting and opening, like talking full mouth? It's
Gakuro looks like he's 35 in this picture.
Yeah, so I was like, did he get a new form where he looks a lot crappier than he used to?
Oh, Quinn, you know that's not true. Gakuro looks crappy in every form.
That's true.
Low-hanging fruit. Yeah.
But
Yep. So also, yeah, you're right though. Gekka, in a few pages before, when she made that big declaration that like Gakuro is gonna beat you, she was also making a weird face. I was able to look past that one because like she's been stabbed and she's coughing up blood and stuff. So that's fine. Gakuro is totally unharmed. And he's like, teach me to be stronger. So weird.
It's a very odd call, but you know it is an odd, Nick. Well, I guess it is odd because it's chapter 207 of Akane-banashi.
Yep. Not a prime number, by the way. So.
Wait, what times is together to make 207?
3, for one thing.
Because if you add 2, 0, and 7 together, they make 9, which is divisible by 3.
Yep, exactly.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Yep. I believe actually, you know what it is?
It's
by 3?
69.
69.
Whoa.
All right. Yes, Akane just anyway. On that note, Akane just unlocked her first ever specialty Rakugo. It was only God of Death, one of the most foreboding stories. It was very deeply personal to her because of her personal experiences with death. Oh, 69, yeah.
Funny number.
Story 207, Overdrive. As Akane, again, we get the end of her story with her narration that death is capricious, it goes where it will, and only takes. And she collapses. Everyone is just stunned for a little bit. And she remains, in her like, oh, I've died at the end of the story pose for a bit longer, until finally she sits back up. And then she bows, and only then is there an audible reaction as people are kind of like the trance breaks and people start cheering raucously for her.
Oh, she gets that cool panel of her walking back out, like tying her hair up as everyone's just giving this giant standing ovation. Like, come on.
Awesome exit shot. Very cool. One of the guys that we saw before as, like one of the patrons who's like, oh, I only come here just for Isho's stories, basically. He thinks to himself, like, I really only come to these Rakugo stories like once a year. I don't really know anything about Rakugo, but that was, I can tell that was insane. That was wild. And he's cheering very, very loudly. So, that's a big deal. Like, hey, you went over the layman at least. Akane gets off stage. And a bottle of water is offered to her by Hikaru. And so she is there with Kaisei, and he doesn't have his sign with him, so I don't know who it is. One apprentice who had the sign with him before. And so Hikaru is like, hey, why didn't you tell me you could do God of Death like that? And Akane says, I'm actually amazed too. I wanted to craft an experience that was driving and powerful, collaborative with the audience, but this is the first time that it surpassed what I imagined. And then she stops, and she's like, Hikaru's like, what are you saying? Rakugo Overdrive. And the other three are like, what? And she says, yeah, I was learning the secret to the story-driven style, but it just wasn't sinking in. And so Hikaru's like, so you came up with the name for your technique? Yes! The core of the craftsman style is Rakugo Overdrive. What do you think? Cool, huh? And Hikaru's just got this utterly unimpressed look on her face. And then Kaichi and the other guy are like, yeah, that's cool.
That's pretty cool, Akane. Rakugo Overdrive. Pretty sweet. And I think Hikaru also thinks it's sweet. She's just too much of a Sun to admit it right now.
Yeah, she's thinking to herself like, "Oh, this girl's adorable."
In fairness, didn't she have a name for her fucking voice acting technique? So like, maybe chill out a little bit.
I don't know if she named it herself or not, but
In my mind, and this is the best part, I can gaslight myself. Who cares? She
Gaslight.
absolutely did, and she gave it a very dorky name.
Gotcha. I'm sure Hikaru is a big dork.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yep. So Akane is like, that was my very first time they gained to actually go all out on a huge stage. And at that point, Hikaru realizes, wait, this whole time in every competition, she's always been saddled with some challenge. And she thinks about all the times that she and Karashi have, come against Akane doing that. Like, oh, you have to win the event using Jugemu. You've got to have no one laugh. You've got to use the craftsman style. But this is different. She has nothing holding her back. She's a genius using everything in her arsenal to win. The very first time we've ever seen Akane Arakawa at her peak.
Great moment. Very, very cool.
Intermission time. People break, and so they're talking amongst themselves, and they're like only just now like talking about the fact that like, oh yeah, there was like an announcement from the captain about the choppy waters and stuff like that. And like, wait, that's supposed to be a comedy? What's going on? And so they're just having this like elation from afterwards. And Iken thinks to himself like, this is like the type of thing that leads to like a legend. The more remarkable the performance, the longer it takes for the frenzy to its impact to register. I didn't know she had this in her. If this were a Shinichi promotion test, I would cast my vote without a second thought. And then he ponders, of course, the reality of the situation. It's already hard enough to go second. So when the first half was an event in its own right, how will you distinguish yourself? Because it's time for Kaisei to go up for the second half of the dual duet. So like, follow that. What's he fucking gonna do?
It's very amusing because this chapter felt like it flies by, and then looking back, you're like, oh, it's because the first 10 pages have no dialogue to them, really. It's basically just her reactions, going through, getting the response from everybody, and heading to the back. And then it's like 5 pages of dialogue, and then the end. It's
absorbing the aftermath,
very cool when you look at it that way. Because I remember getting to the end and being like, oh, we're already done, and having to look back and be like, oh yeah, that makes sense, actually. There was like 3 2-page spreads, actually, by this point already.
Yeah, a lot of really cool ones, too.
Yeah. Really, really good stuff. Even though this is just basically like a transitionary chapter, I feel like it covered what made Akane's performance so good. I love them stressing that they're like, this is the first time she hasn't had to like perform with some like super difficult condition on top of her or anything like that. This just let her go as is. And that's why this is so significant of a performance, because this was her basically, no training weights on or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, good stuff.
All right.
Well, Nick, we've got one last chapter. This is One Piece, chapter 1183, Good Morn Maid.
Yes.
So we open the chapter. Imu is there. He is taunting Thor, or Loki rather, saying, no one could strike back against me. Isn't that right? And, Loki's just kind of like, I have never seen someone tank shots like this before. This is crazy. But notably, we have Imu say, Loki, Straw Hat Luffy, in any case, thou will not be my soldiers, so I shall eliminate thee instead, just like Dozon, in the way One Piece loves to do, where it just sprinkles out a little name and says, you'll find out who this is a little bit later.
You'll learn their whole story in chapter 1672.
600? There's like another 400 chapters of this?
Yeah.
Oh boy, I can see it. There's a clash between them, and then we cut over to the western village, where Zaza, the water spirit, is sucking up the children from the village, just sort of putting a water tendril on them and using that to pull the children up. The giants are trying to defend themselves, but Chopper is like, no, I have not fully healed you yet. You will die if you do this. But we see Ripley kind of speaking for the rest of the giants when she says, my life means nothing for me if my son is ripped from my arms.
So fucking badass.
Very, very cool. Killingham notes like, we only got 7 of them, but that's going to have to do. Let's get going, Zaza. As we see Sanji heading towards the town. He's just able to see like the top of this water spirit at this point, but he's on his way.
You better not get distracted by those boobs.
He's like, I can't hit a water spirit woman. Robin-chan, save me. We cut over to Ginkgo inside the block, who is thinking, Brook, why did you run off? But that's actually being said by Usopp, who's saying, why did you run off to fight that woman? I had to jump in after you, basically. And at this point, some of the other Straw Hats, like Nami and Jinbei, I blanked on his name, and I wanted to call him Bjorn for a while. Jinbei show up, and they're like, yeah, did you know her? What was going on? And Brook's like, she's not an enemy, but she's somebody I didn't really want to see again. Or I thought, I mean, she was like a child back then, so she should be like 77 years old now. And they're like, well, maybe it's someone else. And he's like, yeah, but she was a princess in my homeland who then went on to Marriagetoxin. So it does kind of line up there. And there's a moment where Frankie is running towards him being like, hey, Brook, that chick's still frozen? Which is...
hey, Brook, that chick's still frozen over here.
I do just like that way of delivering it. They don't know if she's alive or dead at this point, but like, what do we do, essentially? And Brook is kind of explaining, he's like, look, when we were tied up earlier, she's the one who freed us. And not only that, when she freed me, he remembers hearing her say, run, Brook. And it's like, wait, how does she know who I am? And they're also talking about how it feels like there's multiple people inside of her. There's her original personality, the one that saved us, and then there's that crazy one, the emu one that we knew. So, who really knows who she is? And I do love this moment from Jinbei where he's just like, look, Brook, this is great. This is your call. Are we killing her or not? We need to know.
Every group needs a Jinbei.
Yeah.
Just be like, all right, I understand you're going through a lot of stuff right now. I need to know, is it okay to kill her?
Yeah.
Like every D&D party needs
Yes.
someone to just be like, subdual or lethal damage in the last point, my bro.
Just let me know.
Make the call, because I can't take the lethal back.
So, Brook mentions that this is all from a very, very long time ago in a country that no longer exists called Asperia, and we go into a flashback from 70 years ago, and Nick...
2 flashbacks this arc! 2!
I don't know if I can take another one.
You thought that the 3 or 4 month one for Loki was it? No!
This year of One Piece might be like 60 to 70% just flashback at this point. So, we open in 70 years ago flashback in the Kingdom of Asperia as Brook, pretty young Brook as well, 20-year-old. He's the captain of this battle convoy in this kingdom, is singing his song. But Brook, the ever-famous musician, the Soul King that we know, was actually very unpopular as a musician back in the day. Everyone hates him. They're like, shut up, this dude sucks. I'm going to shoot this man. One guy's like, give me my gun. And we see all of these reactions, but the members of Brook's group are like, oh, train us in all your techniques. And he's like, I'm just teaching the fundamentals. But they're all jealous because Princess Shuri gets to learn from him directly. And we see the 2 of them singing Bink Sake as they basically are walking home from a day's worth of training. And the little girl mentions, do you think I'm any stronger just like Mama now? And
I like how her sword is only a little shorter than Brook's.
It does feel like it's a crazy, huge sword to have a child train with, but I guess she's really, really skilled. Brook starts getting hard eyes when she mentions her mom because he, I guess, really fancies her mom. And the king of the kingdom, Reuven's like, hey, what are we doing over here? I'm sentencing you to death for you looking at my wife, I guess, or something.
I'm trimming the hedges, which is what kings do.
Yeah, in my boxes. Actually, these are just pants, but they really just look like striped boxes from here.
What an
Um,
unusual looking king. And I
it,
say that as someone who's been reading One Piece a long time.
I was gonna say, it was like for a series with that introduced in one arc like 7 new kings, including one who's just a pure stereotype of Mexico. This is still one of the most curious kings out there. There is a moment where I want to call her Gunko, but her name's Shuri. I have to remember that there's like 3 different names. Yeah. Shuri says, "Don't worry, Brooke, when I grow up, I'll marry you." And he's like, "I don't want to marry someone who's still blowing their nose." You know, like that's not
for you, Brooke.
relevant. When somebody comes up and they're like, there is a big danger or something, like a gang on horseback is coming through the city and the battle convoy's out of town, and I think they're going for the queen. They're going after Queen Candel. And, there's a moment where Brooke's like, "Oh, those rogues earlier, I saw them. Strange." And we cut over and we see a bunch of horseback riders, laughing as
We're
they're
the
about to
Horsebang gang. Don't ask what we do. We're not committing crimes.
Don't ask where our name comes from. It gets us in a lot more trouble.
We robbed 300 trains. Do they call us the train robbing gang?
We're working really hard.
The Dawn. Do they call us the Dawn Kidnap Gang?
One rumor has overtaken all of the other crimes we've done. And there was a very logical explanation for what we did that night. They're like, "Wow, this is really, really dangerous." But then Brooke's like, "Oh, it's fine. I already cut those guys. They just didn't realize it." So boom, all those guys go down. They realize they've been cut at that moment. And we get an introduction, a little narrative that's like 70 years ago in this kingdom, there were 2 great stars. One, the former captain of the guard and now current queen, Candel, who we see introduced here. And she doesn't look that much like Nami, so that's a cool thing. And then the other was the unpopular musician, but the master of the quick draw sword technique, Brooke. So that is where we're going to end this particular chapter. But yes, it does appear we have another flashback on our hands.
If this doesn't go on for too long, I'm actually very interested in this currently. It's more Brooke backstory,
Sure.
which going into this arc wasn't really something I was expecting to get. I am curious to see, like, okay, what is the relevance of what's going on here beyond just like introducing us to Shuri, or who Gunko used to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see how that goes. And that's it. That's One Piece for this week. What do you think your favorite chapter was this week?
That's a great question. Going into this, I think I thought it was Ultimate Exorcist Kiyoshi because I really enjoyed it. But thinking back on the chapter as we reread it, I think it's Akane-banashi. Part of me feels a little weird giving it to that because it's, an intermediary chapter. It's not like anything significant really happens in it. But I love just the scale of showing Akane leaving to like the standing ovation. I love how long we just play out that silence of her falling, dying, getting up, and then bowing. And then I like the reaction of everybody. It was good stuff all around.
Yeah, I think that it was the most consistently exciting all the way through. So I'm also going to say Akane-banashi, which is crazy for like, an aftermath chapter like that, where it's kind of like, the falling action afterwards. But
Yeah.
Sometimes that's a very important thing to execute, and executed it very well.
Absolutely.
MVP.
MVP. I'm going to give my MVP to Tarasu from Kinato's Magic.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed her in this chapter. I thought she was very funny at times. I like the motto she kind of gives Kinato to kind of chew on about like how not change does not always mean progress. And I really liked her use in this chapter. I thought she was really, really well executed upon in here.
I was kind of torn between a few characters, but I think you just talked me into that. That's for all the reasons that you just said. Because like there were some nice moments with that happened, like in Ichi the Witch, for example. It was nice to see Ichi getting back into actually getting to do stuff again.
Mm-hmm.
Kiyoshi, of course, had the big moment where he stood up for everyone and everything. But in terms of like, I guess, like kind of unexpected bits, I would say that Tarasu was nice to see her, getting to see a little bit more of her personality in this chapter, and getting to, see her presented in a funny way that didn't like, also kind of like take away her gravitas.
Yeah. And the audience, by the way, picks Spy Family as their chapter of the week, and then
Sure.
Mamimna de Cheese as the character of the week.
the captain of the secret police in disguise.
Yeah, makes sense. So really good stuff there, and yeah.
I could totally buy it even just off of that one panel where he's like, "You don't want my pizza." so yeah, very silly chapter of Spy Family this week. Absolutely.
Yep, absolutely, and that is going to do it for Weekly Manga Recap this week.
Guys, thank you for joining us on this episode of the show. We record here on twitch.tv/RoloT Wednesdays, typically around 7:30 to 8 Eastern time. But you can get an update on when the show is going live if you follow us on social media. On BlueSky, we are Nick F. Time, RoloT, Weekly Manga Recap. Also, be sure to follow WMR Votes, which is maintained by NinjaX3i, along with the Google document that keeps track of all sorts of stuff associated with the podcast. But if you follow the WMR Votes account, then you'll be able to follow along with the MVP and favorite series audience poll, which gets read off by Quinn at the end of the episode after we make our choices. If you want more Weekly Manga Recap, we are on Podbean, weeklymangarecap.podbean.com, an audio forum, as well as on iTunes, on Spotify, pretty much anywhere you can get a podcast. You can listen to it through the feed. We have a video version posted to YouTube, youtube.com/Weekly Manga Recap, which has an opening sequence by Marriagetoxin and Bree Cheddar, and occasionally title cards by Steve Mann, whose artwork you can check out in a lot of different places by just Googling Steve Mann art. We also have a Patreon, last but not least, patreon.com/Weekly Manga Recap, if you want to help financially support the show and get some bonus episodes as well.
Yes.
And yeah, Discord's linked wherever this gets posted to. If you want to join our community, we have a wonderful community that talks about the chapters as they come out. There's a lot of different casual hangout nights that get scheduled regularly, and also another way to just kind of keep track when the show goes live, because you'll get a notification through that as well.
Absolutely, and it's a fun community space. You can always just go in there and have conversations. It's good stuff.
Yep. And one of the channels on there is a place to make recommendations for a future manga for us to talk about, such as the next one that we're going to look into. Guys, next month is June, which is Pride Month. And we try to, when it comes to that, do some LGBTQ themed manga. And in this case, we're going to be taking a look at I Want to Quit Being a Hitman, Koroshiya Yametai, which is about a hit woman who discovers that she may just have to kill the father of her girlfriend. So we will see how that plays out in an episode or two. Join us for that one. Thank you for joining us.
All right, that's it. Goodbye, everybody.